Hey lovelies, as you know, all month long I am sharing brand new healthy meal prep ideas to help get you prepped for back to school and back to work. And today I've got 5 new awesome ideas for you. If you haven't done it already, I highly recommend you head over to thedomesticgeek.com. And when you're there, you can download all 30 of our healthy meal prep ideas in one handy dandy downloadable PDF. It's totally free. All you need to do is sign up for our newsletter. How easy is that? Now, without further ado, I have got some tasty ideas for you today, starting with these amazing shrimp scampi zoodles. For this recipe, we will get started by cooking up our shrimp scampi, which seriously could not be easier. We're basically going to be melting some butter in a skillet. Once that butter is nice and melted, we will get our shrimp into the pan. I, of course, love using shrimp that has already been peeled because it just makes eating these so much easier. Or go ahead and peel your shrimp before they get into the pan. That is always the better way. Once that shrimp hits the pan, you can go ahead and season it up with some salt and some pepper. We're going to let it cook until it's nice and pink on one side, and then we'll flip all of our shrimp and let them continue to cook until they are nice and pink and opaque on the other side as well. For flavor, we are adding some minced garlic to this. I've got some chili flakes headed in here, a little splash of white wine, which of course is optional. If you're not a drinker, go ahead and leave it out. And then I'm going to finish it off with some bright, fresh lemon zest and juice. How simple was that? It is super satisfying. Sometimes when I make this dish, I actually toss my zoodles in with my shrimp to heat it up a little bit. But what I'm doing today is actually placing my uncooked zoodles in my container and then topping it with my shrimp. That way, when I want to reheat it for lunch, I don't have to worry about my zoodles getting overly mushy. Definitely a great tip if you're going to be meal prepping. I like to doll this up with some cherry tomatoes, a few spoonfuls of the sauce from my pan, a good sprinkle of red pepper flakes, and a lemon wedge for good measure. Even with creating your zoodles, this box comes together in under 10 minutes. What is not to love? Meal prep perfection. Next, guys, we are whipping up some honey garlic meatballs that are oh so delicious, and we're going to pair those with some simple cauliflower fried rice. 2 uber delicious recipes going together in one awesome meal prep box. To start, I am going to mix up my honey garlic sauce. That's the first step. So in my bowl, I am combining some soy sauce with some honey and some minced garlic. I know, hard to believe, right? Honey garlic. We'll whisk that together and set it aside while we get to work on making our meatballs. In my bowl, I have got some ground chicken that I'm using. Of course, you could always do this with ground beef if you wanted to, but I think ground chicken is a really great substitution and helps that honey garlic flavor really come through. To that, I am going to add some breadcrumbs and 1 egg to help these stick together and bind. I'm also going to add 2/3 of my honey garlic mixture right into my bowl. I'm going to reserve the other third of my honey garlic mixture to be brushed on my meatballs once they're done cooking. Finally, I'm going to add some green onion to this and give it a good mix. You just want to mix it until it is well combined, and then you can go ahead and make your meatballs. Now, because these meatballs are going in a teeny tiny meal prep box, I like making them a little bit smaller, so 1 inch to 1.5 inches in diameter. We're going to place our meatballs on a parchment lined baking sheet and then get them into the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for between 20 and 25 minutes. Basically, you're looking for them to reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit on a meat thermometer. Once they're completely cooked, you can remove them from the oven and brush on a little bit of that reserved honey garlic sauce. It's super, super tasty. Trust me, you will not regret it. I'm going to top these off with a sprinkle of sesame seeds and set them aside while we get to work on our cauliflower fried rice. For this recipe, instead of traditional rice, I am going to be using some cauliflower rice. You definitely could use some traditional cooked rice instead, but cauliflower rice is a great low-carb alternative. Now, cauliflower rice has become really widely available at most supermarkets. You can either find it in the produce section or sometimes in the frozen food aisle. If you can't find cauliflower rice though, not to worry at all. Simply pop some cauliflower florets in a food processor and just pulse them up until they're about the size of a grain of rice. Once they're ready, you can set them aside and we can turn our attention to our skillet on the stove. I'm getting started by heating up a good splash of sesame oil, and when that is nice and hot, I'm going to go ahead and add some onion to my pan. I'll cook my onion until it's soft and translucent, about 2 to 3 minutes. Then it's time to add my garlic. Once that garlic is nice and fragrant, I'm going to go ahead and add my frozen veggies to the pan. I love a dish like this because frozen veggies are completely acceptable here. Of course, you always have the option to use fresh if you want to. Basically, we're going to stir our frozen veggies around just until they start to thaw, between 2 and 3 minutes. Then we're going to move this all over to one side while we get to work on scrambling some eggs in this dish. I've got 2 beaten eggs here. I'm just going to let these scramble for another 1 to 2 minutes. Once they're cooked through, we'll mix this all together, and then we can add our cauliflower rice to the pan as well as some soy sauce for flavor. You'll want to let this cook for between 3 and 4 minutes, just until that cauliflower rice starts to soften up. If you find your pan is a little bit dry, go ahead and add a tablespoon or 2 of water to the pan. The water itself will evaporate, but it'll help that cauliflower get nice and soft and palatable. We'll finish this off by stirring in some green onion, and it is ready to be packed up for lunch. Come on, guys. Isn't this cauliflower fried rice just calling your name? I'm just going to pile it into my meal prep container, add my delicious meatballs, and then top this all off with some green onion, and basically you have got the perfect lunch. Next, for something a little fresher and a dish that is best enjoyed cold, we are making a fresh watermelon salad with some beautiful grilled chicken. The first step is going to be seasoning up our chicken, and we're going to do this really simply with just a drizzle of olive oil, some salt, some pepper, some garlic powder, and some dried parsley. The truth is, you can use any kind of seasoning you want on this chicken, whatever makes you happy, but I like just keeping things simple. Next, I have my grill pan fired up over medium-high heat, and I'm going to let this grill away for 4 to 5 minutes until it starts to release easily from the pan and it's got nice grill marks on top. It's really important to cook your chicken to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit. That's how you know it is safe to eat. While our chicken is cooking away, we can turn our attention to mixing up a very simple balsamic dressing for this salad. It starts with some olive oil in a bowl. To that, I am adding some balsamic vinegar, a little bit of honey, some Dijon mustard, some salt and pepper, and that's it. All you need to do is give it a whisk, and it is easy as that. To assemble my box, I am starting with a nice layer of mixed greens as my base. Then I am going to pile on some beautiful watermelon chunks. Next, as is very classic in a watermelon salad, I am adding a good sprinkle of feta cheese. I know it may sound strange, but the rich, creamy saltiness of feta cheese is so beautiful with the crunchy sweetness of watermelon. Really a match made in heaven. I'm also going to add my cooled chicken and our dressing to this box. And then to add just a little bit of refreshment, I'm going to add some fresh mint. And there you have it, a beautiful, fresh, healthy lunch you can feel really good about. This can be made 2 to 3 days in advance and then stored in the refrigerator until you are ready to enjoy it. Next, guys, if you're looking for something a little more filling, might I recommend this incredible Spanish beef dish that I simply cannot get enough of these days. What I love about this dish is that it's all cooked in a single skillet. No fuss, no muss. For this recipe, I've got a nice big skillet heating up on the stove. To that, I'm going to add just a splash of oil, and then I'm going to cook up my beef. Now in this case, I'm using beef chuck that I've cut into 1/2-inch cubes. You can really use any kind of beef you want here. You could even go for ground beef if that's what you had on hand. It's pretty versatile as a dish. I'm going to season it with some salt and pepper and cook it until it's nice and golden on all sides. Once everything is nice and golden brown, we can go ahead and add our onion to the pan. I'll cook that for another 2 to 3 minutes until that onion has started to soften up and become really flavorful. Next, for even more wonderful flavor, I'm adding some minced garlic and some fresh thyme leaves, 2 of my very favorite things, as you know if you've been with the channel for any length of time. Once those become fragrant, we'll go ahead and add our potatoes right into the pan. We'll let those potatoes fry up with all those ingredients for another minute or 2. Then it will be time to go ahead and add even more flavor with some tomato paste, some smoked paprika, and a little sprinkle of cayenne. Always optional, but that heat is also always delicious. I'll top this all off with some rich, hearty beef broth. I'll season it again with a little more salt and pepper, and then I will let this mixture come to a simmer, reduce my heat to medium, pop the lid on my skillet and let those potatoes cook away until they've become nice and soft and tender, between 8 and 10 minutes. To complement this delicious Spanish beef dish, I am making some really simple roasted peppers. I've got some red bell pepper and some green bell pepper, as well as some poblano cut into strips. I'm just going to toss those really simply with a little oil and some salt and pepper and get them into the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes. You just want to see them get nice and soft and just start to caramelize. I'm going to add these to my meal prep box, and I really think these make the perfect pair. I like garnishing them with just a little bit more fresh thyme, and this dish is super tasty, it packs really well, and it can be reheated in the microwave just before enjoying. Finally, guys, I have an incredible meal prep idea that falls under the category of salads that do not suck. It all starts with a really wonderful vinaigrette. I've got some olive oil in my bowl. To that, I'm adding some white wine vinegar, a little bit of Dijon mustard, some honey, and some salt and pepper. I'll give that a whisk and set it aside while I assemble my salad. Now, the base for this salad is actually some finely chopped kale. Now, if you're not a kale fan, absolutely fine. You could swap in another green, but I love using kale in meal prep because it really stands up well if you're making something 2 or 3 days in advance. Once I've got my kale layered in, I'm going to go ahead and add some cooked farro to this. If you're not familiar, farro is a delicious ancient grain. If you can't find farro, it's fine to use some quinoa or some wild rice here. Both would work really well. Next, I'm going to pile in some orange, some finely chopped fennel, some chopped beets, and then pour over my dressing. The best part about a salad like this is that it's so hearty, it can actually hang out in the dressing for 2 or 3 days without getting overly mushy. Finally, I'm going to finish this off with some pomegranate arils. How pretty is it? Now guys, I have to say the entire team absolutely loved this salad, but we could not for the life of us come up with a name for it. So if you have any good ideas for what this salad could be called, please leave them in the comment section below. I definitely want to hear from you because I am just stumped. Guys, I hope you found all of these ideas inspiring and that you will give them a try for yourself. If you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Snapchat me a photo because I always love seeing your lunch creations. Keep in mind, all 5 of these recipes, plus 25 more meal prep ideas, are available as a downloadable PDF through thedomesticgeek.com, so you can take a look there. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.